Sirens sounding in southern Israel this morning after rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip. This comes following violence between Israeli police and the Palestinians inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. As of now, the Israeli forces say that 5 projectiles were launched, 4 intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system. 4 more rockets fired shortly after, which fell into open areas. Palestinian media reporting that the response from Israeli forces was airstrikes hitting Hamas targets. We know that they usually target rocket launching sites in the enclave. We're going to cross now to our correspondent, Guy Azriel, live for us in the south of the country. Guy, good morning. Talk to us about how many rockets were fired exactly. It's a little bit unclear at this time just how many were intercepted, how many fell into open areas, and how many fell back in the enclave itself.
Good morning, Hamda. We did not get the exact numbers from the IDF just yet. We do know of at least 16 rockets that were fired into Israeli territory overnight. Several barrages of rockets, particularly hitting this area where I am right now in the city of Sderot and in the surrounding areas, many kibbutzes and villages around this area where all these residents had to spend their nights in shelters when they heard those rocket alarms. A very sleepless night for them. I'm here at the site of the direct hit in the city of Sderot, as our cameraman Roy will quickly show you. This is the place where the direct hit took place, right here outside a factory in Sderot. And as you can see also in the visuals from the factory from last night, dozens of people inside that factory hearing the rocket alarm. They only had about 15 seconds to make it to the shelter. Luckily, no one was injured in this incident. Hamda.
Guy Azriel live for us in the south. Thank you. Let's bring in Colonel in Reserves Alon Eviatar, Palestinian affairs expert and former COGAT advisor, and our Middle East correspondent, Ariel Oseran, joining us live in studio. Both of you, thank you so much for being with us. Ariel, I want to start with you. This comes after violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad lines, and all these factions continuously warning that the Al-Aqsa was a red line. What exactly happened last night? Walk us through the series of events that led us here.
Right, Hamda. So while no group has yet to take responsibility for the launches from the Gaza Strip towards Israel this morning, we saw throughout the night events play out in a fashion that take us back about 2 years ago when we saw clashes, pretty violent clashes between Palestinian worshippers and Israeli security forces up in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Similar images of clashes inside the mosque, images coming out last night of fireworks fired at Israeli police. They responded with stun grenades. And as these images were starting to come out, we immediately saw different Palestinian faction leaders calling on Palestinians to come to a mass at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and defend it. I think just about an hour before the first barrage of rockets, which was at just after 3 a.m., an hour before that, the head of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, issued a statement calling on the masses in the West Bank and inside Israel to go to Al-Aqsa Mosque, protect it. What's happening now in the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque is an unprecedented crime. And this is exactly what the factions have been trying to do for the past 2+ years, of trying to create this new equation of what happens in Jerusalem, what happens in the West Bank, what happens in Gaza. It's all together. Even though Hamas is sitting in Gaza ruling the enclave, they're still trying to present themselves as the protectors of the Palestinian people, the Palestinian cause, as well as the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And this is something that played out today, at least I would imagine, to the pleasement of the Palestinian factions that saw these clashes erupt overnight.
Alon, let's bring you in. The Palestinian Authority said that Israel has repeatedly crossed a red line when it comes to the Al-Aqsa. You're the former coordinator for government activities in the territories. What does this do to the security cooperation between Israel and the PA after stuff like this happens?
Well, so far, the security coordination is continuing. On the ground, we can see in every district in the West Bank that the local commanders from both sides continue to work together. you can say that it's 50%, 60%, but generally I think that the security coordination is still exists despite the tension, despite the events and the negative development, if you want, on the ground. We can separate, and this is practically, we separate between the headquarters, between the generals, between the high level and the tactical level, the local level. Those generals, you know, from the Israeli side and the Palestinian side as well, from time to time decide to freeze the security coordination and to freeze the cooperation between them. But on the ground, day by day, 24/7, I have to say, that the commanders on the ground still continue work together and coordinate. You know, it could be changed by the circumstances. You know, tomorrow there will be security coordination full, I would say, but day after it could be less. But generally, it still exists. I think that the most important thing that we have to remember in those times between the two sides, that the channel, the open channel, the direct channel, if you want, between the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli side should be continue. I think that while you mentioned before the Temple Mount area, I think that the Temple Mount is not I would say area that or arena that common to the Palestinians and the Israelis. There are other elements. For example, the Jordanians. It's very important to keep direct channel between Israel and Jordan in order to calm down the situation over there, not just the PA Authority.
Well, that's a good segue into our next question. Ariel, hundreds of arrests, hundreds of injuries. The Jordanians, some of the first to speak out, trying to mediate between the factions to calm the situation before the rockets were even fired. What else is going on with them?
Well, there were two security summits, that's how they were presented to the public, meetings between officials from Israel, Palestinian Authority, Egypt, Jordan, and the United States. There was one of these in Jordan, one of these in Egypt ahead of the month of Ramadan to try and avoid these exact images. And the fact that following those two meetings, this is still the situation that is playing out, has all sides involved very concerned. And immediately we heard from Jordan, from Egypt, condemnations to these images from the Al-Aqsa Mosque overnight, calling them a hindrance for peace. Also, Saudi Arabia, which has become more vocal on these kinds of events, also condemned the Israeli police actions. And given that there were these two summits and ongoing efforts for months to try and de-escalate the situation, I think diplomatically this has Israel in a diplomatic challenge today.
And Alon, very quickly.
Can I add?
Yes, we've got about 30 seconds left, please.
Short time, yeah. Israel tried to, I would say, the main policy is to separate between the arenas. We have to remember that during the tension in the Palestinian arena, there is still, I would say, hot development in the northern front, which is much, I would say, important than the Palestinian arena from the Israeli point of view. And I think that Israel tried to calm down the situation, I hope so, in the Palestinian arena in order to be prepared for any escalation in the northern front.
Alon Aviatar and Ariel Osran live in studio with us this morning. Thank you.